Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome, Daily Theologians, to a book review of Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. Now, this is kind of a cult classic from the 70s and 80s. They had seminars on all kinds of things, and she recently updated the book within the last 5 to 10 years or so, and it's really a very solid book. Now, my background is from the investment and retirement plan space. I've worked in every side of this industry for the most part, and I can tell you from personal experience, I think this book is very helpful no matter what theological perspective you're coming from. And I'll give warnings and dangers and tie it back to the core issues at the end. So stay with the review for that. But there are practical and tactical things that I think a lot of people could learn from this book called Your Money or Your Life. Here we go. So the book, this review is meant to be helpful, but is not financial advice. Welcome, Daily Theologians. There are 9 chapters: the money trap, money ain't what it used to be, where's it all going, how much is enough, getting it out in the open, the American dream on a shoestring, for love or money, valuing your life energy, catching fire, and where to stash your cash. The last 2 chapters, not as important to me, however, maybe to you. So let's get started. The short summary for impatient people. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's me. The program has 9 steps. This is very important definitions. Money is something you trade your time for or your life for. Work is something you do to serve others. That's my definition of work. So money and work are not necessarily the same things. This is very important, and I think people in our culture probably have this mixed up with their identity. Step number one for the impatient people: figure out your lifetime earnings, income, and then look and see if that motivates you. Number 2, track your spending total and expense total each month. Number 3, put the results in categories and convert, missing a T, to hours of life energy for each. Number 4, ask 3 questions about these categories and results. Fulfillment, values, should it change? Number 5, make your life energy visible. Create a wall chart. Number 6, minimize spending. New information creates new outputs. Number 7, maximize your income. Number 8, look for the crossover point. Number 9, investing for financial independence, which we'll get into here. Those are the 9 steps. I give this book an A+ for tactics. But money is not the point of life. And even though Vicki is coming from a very different background, a very Buddhist background, you can tell, she has a right understanding in some respects of money and its purpose. Too many people are buying and chasing things that don't really align with their personal mission, goals, or values. This is true. I've found this to be true. And that is a core premise of the book. Some powerful questions. She peppers these throughout the book, and I would encourage you to get the book. It's like $10. And there are these money questions all throughout for Money Talks, which are very good. Number 1 question: are you at peace with money? Does your job reflect your values? What makes you happy, and is your life whole? And these are meant to be diagnostic questions. Premise number 1. The big point: we aren't making a living, we're making a dying. Come on, we're dying at work. What they do for money dominates their waking hours, and life is what can be fit into the scant remaining time. And this is true. Now, if you look at this very sophisticated paper airplane chart that I've put here, baby, you're born, and you're basically going to eventually die. Now, as believers, eternity, death is not the end, but the point here is that you're trading all of your time for money, and eventually it's not going to matter. So this is a good point, and your life shouldn't be about just squeezing things into the weekend. We believe what you do for a living. This is something very interesting that she picks up on, and one of my, I don't know, can I say pet peeves? Sorry if you've asked me this, but it's when people say, "What do you do?" And I've just started responding by saying, I do lots of things, because we do lots of things for income. But so many people want to define you by what your position is, what your profession is. But our identity is not in what we do, but our character. Try asking someone when they ask you this, what makes you happy? And be prepared for some awkward pauses and time, because most people don't know what makes them happy. Jobism is this hierarchy of valuing people based on their profession. And this is so true. I was in a fairly, I guess, decent profession with some street cred, and now I don't necessarily have that. And it's funny how people could potentially look at you or treat you based on your what they perceive your income capacity to be, and that's not how we should view people. In fact, it's opposed to the Bible. It's opposed to reality too. But we've kind of created this matrix of evaluating people on their job title. This is called the hamster wheel. I did a video on this several years ago about the hamster wheel of death. People work to pay the bills, so they go back to work and they get more money, but then they buy more things and they work more to pay the bills, and then they work to pay the bills, but it's a never-ending cycle. You're just continuing to work to pay for the things because you're stressed out, so you're buying more things, so you're going back to work to buy more things, you're stressed out, and it just keeps going. More is not always better. More is not always better. Think about this. If more is better, you will never have enough. You will never make enough, and you will never rest. You will always be striving for more. Where did we get the term standard of living? Where did your standard of living come from? And you look at this, and she talks about in the book how even vacations have become an opportunity to consume and be a spending spree. There was a shift in the 20s, according to Vicki, to get us to evaluate possessions as a standard of living, as well as vacations as opportunities to consume instead of rest. Now, she ties this into the Industrial Revolution, the ability to produce more goods and say, look, we don't need to work as much, and so then they had to find another way to motivate people. Now, I believe work is good, and there's a difference between money and work. I believe work is something you do to serve and help others, and does not necessarily have to be for money. The primary example of this would be my wife. She does so many things to help us that we don't pay her for. She is constantly working. So work and money are not the same thing. Money is something you trade your life for, and work is something I believe that you do to serve others. And you have to be aware of this shift to tie your identity into things. So marketing theory came along. I have a degree in this wonderful field. Marketing theory says that people are driven by fear, the promise of exclusivity, by guilt and greed, by the need for approval. Advertising, technology, armed with the market research and sophisticated psychology, aims to throw us off balance emotionally and then promises to resolve our discomfort with a product. This is so true. Think about the number of ads you see in a day. I hardly see any. Why? Because we don't have TV. YouTube will throw ads at you, but you can still at this time skip those. And then I pay for Spotify. This is not an ad for Spotify, but I pay for the one without ads, because advertisements are terrible, and I don't want to hear them. And plus, I don't want my kids to hear what they're advertising. So the whole idea of advertising is to create this disconnect between where you are and where you'd like to be, your end state, so that you have to go buy this product. And I found myself, I've wasted so much money on things because you're influenced. Like, you need this car, you need this house, you need these clothes, you need this or that. And it promises to resolve those things. Of course, those are not true. Money is not necessarily how much we have, but how we feel about it. Governs our lives as much or more than any other factor, according to Vicki Robin. And you know what? I think there's some truth to this. I think Jesus even said you cannot serve God and money. And so people's desire for money, it evaluates who they'll talk to, who they'll hang out with, where they'll work, what they drive, what they spend their time doing. Are they hustling, grinding, all those things? And she talks about the fulfillment curve, and I thought this was really, really a good point of the book. At what point are you at enough? What is enough? And this is so true as believers. Enough is, according to Jesus, food and clothes. With this you should be content. Godliness with contentment is great gain. So this fulfillment curve was very interesting to me, that you reach a certain level of money, and then afterwards what you're expending to get that more money actually lowers your fulfillment. And I would say, working in corporate America, look around if you're at your job right now, most people are pretty miserable, and it's because they have debt, or they're trying to measure up to some sort of title, or they're trying to do what they think is right for their family and provide for their family, which is very good. But perhaps they've created a trap where they're on the wheel and they're they don't actually have to be doing what they're doing. And we'll get into how she would break this down in the book, but just know that enough has to be achievable for you, or you will never have enough. And so I'll argue at the end that is the gospel, is what enough is. Step 1. How much have you made in your life? Now, this is going to make you a little bit sick when you total up this number. Our number made me a little bit sick, and when you do it, you will see. So she says, total up everything you've ever made, and the more detailed, the better. Don't cut corners. Try to be as specific as possible. Now, when we did this, it was very quick. It was a very quick estimate, because I understand the principle here. But she's saying the more detail, the better. So do with that what you will. Then she says, create a balance sheet. Total up all of your cash, retirement accounts, as well as market value of your possessions, every possession. Now, again, if you have a bunch of stuff, this could be depressing or this could be encouraging. But either way, look at what you have for what you've spent over the course of your life. Let's say you've made $100,000 for 20 years, which double income family for 20 years, that's $2 million. What do you have of that $2 million? And you can see how this could change your paradigm here pretty quickly. Chapter 2, money isn't what it used to be, and it never was. And I actually agree with this. This is a very important premise. Money is flying all over the place, but I think people are lost in a sea of transactions. Now, I've seen this and experienced this personally, where it's just debit card, debit card, debit card, automatic transaction, Amazon one click, and pretty soon you've got like 300 transactions in your month or more, and you don't know where any of them are going. So what we've tried to do is use, again, not an advertisement, but we use I'll just say a card with money on it for cash. And that's the spending money that we use to limit transactions, so there's not a sea of things on our bank account. And then at the end of the month, we have maybe 30 or 40 actual transactions in our checking account, which makes it very easy to see, okay, what did we spend money on? Was that something we wanted to spend money on? And we actually caught some weird thing where someone was buying beef from Petco for us, which we weren't. Like, they stole my debit card, and so we canceled that. But we would have never seen that if there were 300 transactions, and that was like a $22 thing. So you'll see, like, where's your money going and what's happening. It'll also help you to feel a lot less anxious over the money side, because you can see, I can manage 20 to 30 transactions or less, but it's very hard to manage 300, 10 a day. It becomes very confusing. And so your money ends up flying all over the place, and you don't know where anything's going because there's so many transactions happening. What is money? The answer may surprise you. I already kind of gave this away. But money is something, according to Vicki, that you trade your life energy for. You sell your time for money. It doesn't matter that Ned over there sells his time for $100. You sell yours for $20. An hour is the only real asset you have is your time, the hours of your life. This is according to Vicki. Now, I would disagree. I think the soul, like your soul, you're more than just a physical body. But the point here is, when it comes to your physical life in this life, yes, this is true. You're selling your time for money. And no matter, even if you're not an hourly wage employee, you're still trading your time for money, and you have to be honest about this. People say, no, I'm on a salary, or I'm on commission, or whatever. It's still your time for money. How much time? How much money did you get? And the goal isn't to chase more money, as you'll see here. Actually, here you go. Quit the money game. Whoever dies with the most toys wins is part of the design to keep us all in the system. Playing, upgrading your technology is part of the game design. Plan, manufactured obsolescence, fashion is part of the game. That's why I'm so fashionable. I'm not fashionable. Starter homes, yeah, again, part of the game. I know a good number of people that have had very nice houses that are my age, and then they sell it and get a bigger one, and it never ends. Advertisements show beautiful women, muscular men, decorated with products that you need to purchase. And again, you cannot serve God and money. So she's saying, just decide to not play this game. Get out of the advertising rat hole or rat's nest. I don't know what you would call that, where it just keeps going and it's never going to be enough. She breaks down remaining life expectancy by years or hours. So if you're 20, you would have 59.6 years left, 522,000 hours. Let's say you're like me and you're, let's say, I don't know, I'm closer to 40. So you would have 40.7 years left, 356,532 hours left. Is that, like, what are you doing with your life? Now, obviously, eternity changes the chart, and at the end, I will explain my view on all this. But this is a good reminder for your time here with your family and people that you love, at the very least. So this is a helpful chart. Vicki says, knowing that money is simply your life energy puts you in the driver's seat of your money life. How much of my life am I willing to sell to have money in my pocket? Looking around at your accumulation of stuff, you can ask, how many hours of my life did I invest to have this chair, car, matched set of cookware, diploma on the wall? See what this does to your next purchase. This is important, and we'll break out how this works in just a moment. But if you evaluate things and the amount of time it cost you to purchase it, I think you will find yourself making better decisions, which is really the core issue, and why I'm not a huge fan of budgeting and being super OCD. I've done all of that. Just a bit more. There's never enough. She says more is like a mirage. Just a little more. Never enough. And this is true. This is true. Give your kids an ice cream cone and see if they're happy for the rest of the day. I doubt it. Being in the present, tracking your life energy. So this is step number 2. So step 1, you figure out how much you've made in your life. Step 2, money equals life energy. How does this manifest itself in your life? So you want to track every penny. Establish the actual costs in time and money required to maintain your job and compute your real hourly wage. Keep track of every cent that comes into and goes out of your life. So this is there's 2 parts here. Number 1, what are you spending money on? So you're tracking income, you're tracking where it's going, and ideally you're lowering the number of transactions, right? Like I said, so that you're not tracking 300 things a month, which is crazy. You're hopefully around 30 to 50. But how much of your life energy or time did that pizza lunch cost? And when you factor in commutes and things like that to your actual 40-hour work week, are you actually working 50 hours? My hunch is you probably are. Are you answering emails? Are you talking about your job after hours? Is it really 60 hours a week that you're working? And then add in the cost of lunches out and the car and trying to look the right way and have the right clothes. And all these things chip away at what you're actually making from your paid employment or your place that you work. Is it breaking your wallet? Do you have no time to fix things or do things at home that would in other words, you're hiring someone to cut the grass or to fix something? Be prepared to discover how much you spend on expensive alternatives, cooking, cleaning, repairs, and other things that you would do yourself if you didn't have to work. So this can be surprising, and it can really knock down your actual income, your actual hour of life. See, this guy's so surprised because if you're making $25 an hour, it's $1,000 a week, $52,000 a year if you get paid vacation. But if you're working 50 hours a week answering emails and the commute, which is not a stretch, you're actually only getting $20 per hour. And then you can see how this would keep coming down after taxes, after clothes, after restaurants, after different things. And pretty soon, what you thought was a $25 an hour job is like $10 or $15 is her point in the book. And work through the book for yourself to figure this out, and she'll explain that a lot better, but I think you can see how that would work. The rule for this highly developed tool of transformation is keep track of every cent that comes in or goes out of your life, and she says that over and over and over. And this isn't to be a miser or a Scrooge. This isn't to be cheap and not give. This is just to say, where's my money going? And it works the same way with eating and calories. If you take this approach, you'll just become more aware of what you're actually doing. Your commitment to clearing up your relationship with money is really tested here. One of the keys of your success in this program and in life, she says, is the shift in attitude from one of laxity and leeway to one of accuracy, precision, and impeccability. And Vicki is very kind in the way she says this, so she's not domineering or mean about it. By the way, such integrity might work miracles in other aspects of your life, which is true. Faithful in little things, faithful in much, right? Step 3, put your expenses in categories at the end of the month. And then this is not as hard as it sounds. Use basic categories. Don't have too many. You can personalize these, but I would say keep it simple. If you have 5 or 6 categories, you total them up, and you put each of those into the category, and then put a plus or minus after you divide how many hours of your life that category costs you. So, for example, if you're making $10 an hour and you spend $500 on restaurants, or as Dave Ramsey says, restaurants, that would be 50 hours of your life. Was that worth 50 hours of your working life for the restaurants? I don't think so. But you'll start to see that, and then you put a plus or minus next to each category. This is important because it gives you feedback. And then these 3 questions, she says, will transform your life. Maybe. I think they could definitely help transform your relationship with money and get you free from the love of money, perhaps, which is my goal of doing this video. Number 1, did I receive fulfillment, satisfaction, and value in proportion to life energy spent? Number 2, is this expenditure of life energy in alignment with my values and life purposes? Number 3, how might this expenditure change if I didn't have to work for money? Where is this ladder going? Most purchases are driven by a desire to climb some invisible happiness ladder. I think this is true, so asking these diagnostic questions forces you to say, wait a minute, did this line up with what we're trying to do? For us, we're trying to reach people with the gospel. So, surprise, if you're surprised by that. That's not what the focus of this video necessarily is. But I think there is a direct link between money and what people love and their ability to recognize God's work in their life and understand the gospel. I think this is an important topic that often gets handled poorly, and you just hear try harder, do better, and different spectrums of this. Again, money's not evil. It's not wrong to have money. It's not wrong to be successful. Working hard is good. The questions here are meant for you to determine is what you're doing working in light of the things that you value and the way you understand the Bible or your worldview. Now, I would argue that if you're not starting with a biblical worldview, you're way off track. But most of us use external yardsticks for fulfillment. In fact, Ashley Brilliant said they didn't teach it in school and teach them how to be happy. She says, we measure our fulfillment by pleasing others, getting an A, proving ourselves to the boy from third grade who still lives in our mind, beating our competition, making it onto the top 10 list, winning, not winning, but getting a trophy, scoring big. So the point is this. If those things are success or always outside of you, and that's how you determine if you're doing the right things, you'll never have enough. You'll never be enough. And this is why so many kids are miserable and they're 6 days a week playing sports that they're not any good at. There's no future in. They're not developing character, and they're actually not developing a healthy relationship with money because they're spending thousands of dollars chasing these trophies and things instead of learning contentment and learning godliness with contentment and learning how to produce and serve other people so that they're not on this hamster wheel of death, chasing more and more and more and going into debt to do it. Like college, which is a complete disaster at this point. Guaranteed, if you think your dream is getting an A on a test, which was me, totally me, wow, I wasted so much. Well, I mean, it's not wrong to work hard in school, but this is not the goal of life. It makes you a pretentious and sometimes just hard to be around know-it-all. I mean, this is really kind of bad. Or beating your opponent, sports. You'll chase after the next external reward your whole life. And so this, again, can be a way to really elevate yourself. Instead of thinking of others more highly than yourself, you're always trying to one-up someone else. But who cares? If we have the right view of others and we care about them, then all of this melts away and you're not on this hamster wheel of external success. Stop caring what advertisers tell you to buy or think. This is true. Don't make your financial choices based on the advertising industry. And they're constantly trying to manipulate you. You know this from YouTube. You know this from Facebook. You know this from if this video ever gets advertisements. They don't care about you. They're trying to sell you something. Now, is it wrong? Well, you don't have to buy their stuff and you don't have to listen to them. But you are being manipulated, and we know this from the way our phones even interact with us at this point. So don't trust the advertising industry. It's not your identity, things that you own. Step 5, this lady, make a wall chart so you can see where your money's going each month. Now, this is kind of tough in the church as a Christian here, and I think rightly you should be a Christian too, is that people don't talk about money. There's two camps. One is just make more, American dream. And the other side is money's bad, money's evil. Don't have any money, live in a tent. I was kind of in that camp for a long time. And it's not healthy because money isn't bad. It's a tool. But the thing is, are you just chasing more money or are you content? Money can help people. Money's not wrong. But also, if that's all you're talking about and all you're obsessed with is more, then there's a problem. Money's probably an idol. So you want to put up your wall chart on your fridge. If this is your fridge, congratulations. My wife would love this thing. I think it's like a 50s fridge. But income minus expenses equals savings or cash flow. Cash flow is the core thing. Budgeting, creating a bunch of categories, tracking, all these things. You want to make it simple. 30 transactions, 50 transactions a month, I think is very doable if you're using a cash card for small things. You don't have to track a stick of gum or you bought a coffee. I think that's exhausting and ridiculous. So we just do that where we have a little bit of money on that, and that's what we try to spend for those types of things, and it keeps us on pace there, kind of like the envelope system. Income minus expenses equals savings or cash flow. This is ultimately what you're looking at. And the goal, again, isn't to heap up more money for yourself. I think as believers, the goal is to then be able to be generous, give, help others, and help your family. It's not wrong to help your family, so that's not bad. Try this. Ask yourself, how would you spend your time if you could take a year off with pay? If you want to start knocking people on their heels, Start asking people this when they're, what do you do? What's your job? Ask them, hey, if you could take a year off without pay, what would you do? And even for me, I don't have a good answer for this. I'm not sure what I would do because we're so used to our routine. We love our kids and we want to help reach people with the gospel. I don't know. I think I would do more videos. I like doing videos to try to reach people, so I guess I would do videos. But if you ask people this is a really good question. And Vicki is actually, if you get the book, which again, I'm not advertising the book, but I think you should get it. She has really good questions throughout the book called Money Questions. And she's very intuitive. She has a lot of wisdom in a worldly sense. Be frugal. What is it? She says, frugality is enjoying the virtue, getting good value for every minute of your life energy from everything you have the use of. So be frugal. I think frugal has a bad connotation, and she kind of deals with that in the book, but it's not a bad thing to be frugal. It's different to be stingy. Truth bomb. I put a little bomb up there. North Americans have been called materialists, but that's a misnomer. All too often, it's not material things we enjoy as much as what these things symbolize: conquest, status, success, achievement, a sense of worth, and even favor in the eyes of the Creator, which of course is not true. That's what the Pharisees thought. But she's right on the, this is 100% true. This is why people chase money. Why did I want to be an attorney when I was in school? Because I wanted to make money. I probably liked arguing with people a little bit. Why did I go into the investment world? Because I wanted to make a lot of money and help people. And what I realized was it was just a lot of people were just hawking products. It was just this big product push. Buy this thing, buy this thing. When the core issue for most people was cash flow. They had no cash flow. They were not content. They were spending more than they had. They were miserable people. And in the book, she talks about how they correlated income to happiness, and the average respondent across the board, regardless of income, was they just need 50% more. Whether they made a ton already or just a little bit, they just need 50% more. So again, it was never enough. And that's the problem, because we're constantly on this wheel of buy more, buy more, buy more. And I'm not saying be lazy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying work is good. Serve others, help others, reach people, do things for work, but it's not necessarily something that you're paid to do, which we'll explain here in a minute. Step 6. Lower your total monthly expenses by valuing your life energy and increasing your consciousness in spending. Learn to choose quality of life over standard of living. Again, she's spot on. Her wisdom here is profound. She's right. Money versus work. Work and money are not the same thing. You've got to break this link. Work and money are not the same thing. Work is good. Work is designed to serve others. Do your work well. Don't be a bad worker. Don't be lazy. Don't do things poorly. But money is something you trade your life for, and we need to do that. But they're not always connected. Again, think of your family and things they do to help you and things you do to help others. Income from investments and expenses, this is called the crossover point. Steps 8 and 9 are not that important, at least in my perspective. Having come from the investment world, I get it. You have enough to draw down, enough to live off of, your expenses are lower, and you can technically stop working for money and keep doing what you love to do. But I would say the core helpful parts of the book are the steps about valuing your life and money and contentment. And she does a great job in this. It's an excellent book. I would highly recommend it. Hopefully this gave you a good overview of what the book is about. A couple warnings and biblical connecting points. She's not coming from a biblical worldview. She's very kind and very nice, and you really will like her if you get the audiobook. She's very just compassionate. And this is something that I wish people would have taught me when I was younger, to value my time and money, to be content. The core issues here are very good, and I think they can point out maybe a love of money or actually tactically help you in a big way. But remember, we need to rest in the finished work of what Jesus did in his death, burial, and resurrection. This is not a theology book. In fact, you can tell the Buddhist influences in the worlds of minimalism and this type of thinking, FI thinking. It is very heavily Buddhist influence. Buddhistly? I don't know. It's influenced by Buddhism, and you'll see it. If you can't see it, well, look a little harder. It's there. So this idea of detaching and kind of being present. But contentment is good. And some of these things do line up with biblical ideas. And her premise that money is not the point of life very much lines up with the truth of God's word. But remember, this is not a theology book. If you want a theology book on money, read Randy Alcorn's book, Money, and check him out. He's very good. But this is very tactical. What tactical means are these are things, steps you can take to actually apply these principles, but you need to bring the right theology in place. And ultimately, money is an idol, and people will chase money instead of God because it's power, significance, all the things that she highlights. I mean, she's right about these things, but resting in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus is the key. Godliness with contentment is great gain.
Email special.
Godliness with contentment is Alexa taking over. Godliness with contentment is great gain. So this is the big takeaway. You must repent and trust in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. That is where you'll actually find rest and actually find contentment. And because it's a legal problem. You know, people say, like, I'm happy without the gospel. And I believe that. Some Christians say, no, you're not. You're not happy. Well, the gospel is not about happiness. The gospel is about righteousness. We need the righteousness of Christ, or you will have wasted your life and eternity. So that's why I said it's not just about how much you can make in this life. It's not a sprint to grab all this cash and run away and just do nothing and be worthless. And Vicki, though, she wouldn't say that that's the point. She values work and serving others and helping and stuff like that. So it's, the idea of retirement, I'm not a huge fan of, ironically. I think we were made to work to glorify God and to serve others. I think work is good, but you don't always have to be paid for your work. And you want to do things well. Sometimes people chase this sort of thing because they want to get rich quick, and they're lazy, and they just don't want to do anything. And that's not at all what we're talking about. So resting in the finished work of Christ actually frees you up to be content and to serve others and to live a life that is truly valuable and will truly last for eternity with Jesus Christ in heaven. He lived a perfect sinless life. He fulfilled the law on the cross. He bore the wrath of God for the sins of the people of God, shed his blood, died, and is risen and reigning. You must repent and believe the gospel. You say, why is this at the end of the book review? Well, because if your theology is off, none of this matters anyways. Hopefully it's tactically helpful, but you're made for eternity. You have a soul. You have value. And I get if people don't necessarily love that part of the video, but this is a helpful book, but ultimately is lacking because it is not theologically precise. And that's going to be my critique of any book. But it doesn't mean it can't help you in a common grace sort of way. Common grace being God's general grace to help improve your life in some capacity. Things like fruit, air, food, family, these are common graces from God. Flowers. But effective grace or specific grace is what makes you a Christian. God's regenerating grace in the heart of the believer to make you part of his family. You repent and believe in the gospel. So hopefully that makes sense. A little bit of a rant at the end, but remember, gospel rest is the key. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, hammer the like button. It would really help. And subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to do more of these. I think I really like doing book reviews. And let me know what you think. I know there was a lot. I went fast, but it's a long book. And 33 minutes is the best I could do. Thank you, and God bless.